Hello everybody! Firstly, I want to say how very sorry I am that I have not uploaded in 2 weeks. I think that's the longest I've gone on this channel for a really long time without uploading. I do have a good reason for it. I have been so busy. The reason I'm out of breath is because I've just run up to the top of the stairs. Ow, I've got a blister. Always wear socks with trainers. And the reason I'm out of breath is because I've just run up all the stairs and this room is like a sauna. So I'm a sweaty mess. I'm just going to be a bit of a mess in this video, I think. I've had the same makeup on all day. I'm just not really sure what this looks like. But we're here. We're making a video. Yeah, as I said, I'm really sorry. I have been so busy. It's actually unreal. And I didn't feel very well last week. So here I am, up in my attic. Listen to the seagulls. Oh, it's like being back in my old flat on the seafront. Who remembers that? I've got my legs open. This is not a good look. It's a good job you can't see. I know that you guys really like my more kind of chilled, chatty videos or Q&As, whether that's just me or with a friend, and so I thought I would do one today. Do another little chatty Q&A. Have I got lipstick on my teeth? Nah. So the biggest portion of my viewership or audience on YouTube are people over the age of 18, but there is still a huge amount of you who are under 18, and I always notice a lot of you have a lot of questions about what it was like for me being a teenager and how I dealt with certain situations growing up, and I don't feel like I've ever done a video like this. So I asked you all on Twitter if you had any, oh, and on Instagram actually. I said on Instagram story, if you've got any questions, then come tweet me. I feel like the first thing I should point out though is how different it must be being a teenager to when I was a teenager, because funnily enough, as much as I hate to admit it, that was actually quite a long time ago for me. So I was 17, 10 years ago. So my early teens was a wee while. I'll let you do the maths. And I get asked the same question quite a lot, which is, if you were a teenager now, how would you find it? And honestly, I don't know. I think you all deserve a medal, because things like social media and Instagram and likes and like this whole kind of popularity thing wasn't around when I was in school. We had MSN Messenger and there was like AOL chat rooms, and we could text if we had credit, and there is a huge part of me that is so thankful that things like MySpace, Bebo and Facebook only really happened towards the end of my teens. Which was the first one we had? I feel like I had MySpace first and then Bebo, and I must have been 15, 16, and I feel like no one really knew how to use it and it was all very new and it wasn't the same. Although I will say, for any of you 90s kids out there who may have also used Bebo and MySpace, the only thing we ever really had arguments about was in what order your friends were in your top 8 friends. I used to hate doing that. I think I used to shuffle mine or put them on random, because it was like, that was the only thing that caused us rows in our friendship group. Or did it? I don't know, maybe I just secretly got really sad if I wasn't someone's like at least top 5. Most interactions I ever had with people would be on MSN Messenger, and in those days you only had your friends, that was it. And the only thing you really had to think about was which song lyrics you were going to put in your MSN Messenger, like tagline. What was it called? Bio tagline? I can't remember. But hey, if we didn't have Twitter, you wouldn't have been able to ask me these questions, so there's that, I guess. Julia did actually ask, how do you think being a teenager in present day differs from when you were a teen? And I guess I sort of answered that. There's more pressure now outside of your friendship group, which I didn't have back then. The only interaction we had with people who we weren't really friends with was actual face-to-face conversation, and then by the time we were sort of friends, that's when you'd get their MSN and that's when you'd get their number. But there wasn't that same kind of image to portray on social media, I guess. I don't know, I would love to chat to like a room of teenagers to find out how they really feel about it. That would just be so great. Please let me know in the comments. Let's have like a discussion about this. How do you feel being a teen with things like Twitter, Facebook, things like Ask FM, honestly, just sounds like a nightmare to me. When I was at school, someone created the like Rate My Teacher or something, and that was about as like savage as it got. How do you control your hormones as a teenager? And that is by Shannon. You can't, is the answer to that. You can't really. And actually, when I think back to when I was a teenager, my hormones were quite extreme, but it's only as I look back at some of my behaviour, I wasn't terrible, don't get me wrong, but my mood swings, and I remember I used to have arguments with my mum and dad, and I definitely struggled with the hormones. I wouldn't have ever admitted it at the time, but looking back, I can see that I did. Being a teenager is such a weird time because you've gone up to secondary school, you're sort of trying to figure out who you are, who your friends are, you're getting put with people who you might not necessarily have a lot in common with but feel you need to be friends with, and you see these people every day, 5 days a week, like for a massive portion of your life. No wonder you're gonna struggle with it sometimes. So it's only natural, again, when hormones are included within that, that you are gonna struggle sometimes. And also, you start to feel all the feels. You start to feel sad, you start to feel jealous, you start to feel bitter, you start to feel angry, you start to feel over emotional, you start to feel overly excited, overly happy. It's like all the feels, all the emotions and all the feels. And I definitely had that. But it made for some of the best moments and the best memories, and some that I can look back on and be like, wow, I was a biatch to my parents and my brother probably. But you need to remember, everyone else around you is also experiencing that, and it kind of varies person by person, and you know, hormones affect people so differently. But essentially, you're all in the same boat and it's happening to everyone. So don't feel weird or feel like you have to control them in any way. I think hormones are something that's very difficult to control, but I do think trying to find a bit of kind of you time and chill and have like a space that you like to be in and to be able to go and have a moment, I think is really important. So obviously, like your bedroom, like maybe light a candle, put some fairy lights on. Like, it's about making yourself feel at ease if everything is getting a little too much. I feel like this video is going to be really long because I'm such a rambler. Faye Dawson said, pressure to smoke / vape. I did not have a group of friends that ever pressured me into anything, actually. But I have seen where other people have felt pressured to do it. And I guess when I was a teen, I did think, see, the thing is I never felt pressured by anyone else, and my parents weren't very like strict in that sense. Like, they would never lecture me about don't drink and don't smoke, and they sort of left me and my brother to make decisions ourselves, which I think was kind of clever because neither of us are very wild. And I think the only pressure I ever had was myself. Like, I had friends who smoked, who drank. I hung out with groups of people who were much, much older than me doing worse things at house parties. Some of those memories still haunt me to this day. Some of the things I saw in house parties, just, I don't think you should see it as like a 15 or 16-year-old, to be quite honest. But I never felt like I needed to do that. I didn't feel like I needed to smoke or drink or do drugs. I kind of watched everyone else do it and I was like, that doesn't really look fun. I think he just looks stupid. Like, I just used to look at people and just be like, you just look stupid. I don't know, like, it for me it was actually quite like a turn off. I was just a bit like, oh no, that's not for me. And the only sort of like pressure I had really was me in the back of my head thinking, but I'm a teen, like, should I be trying these things? Like, should I be? It was almost like it was me pressurizing myself. It was weird. It was like, well, I guess everyone should try something once in their life. Turns out you don't really have to, because I could see what everyone else was doing and I really didn't feel like I was missing out. And luckily I wasn't within a group of friends where I felt pressured, but I know I would have stood my ground and just said, no, I'm okay, thanks. And I do think if you ever feel that pressure within a group of friends, you have to put your foot down, because you'll never look back on that memory of trying something for the first time and feel comfortable about it, because you'll never be too sure if you really wanted to or not. And I'm just not sure that that's a nice way to ever do anything. I think everything you do and everything you experience should ultimately be down to you, because it's your life. If anyone is making you feel pressured to have sex, to smoke, to drink, to do anything that you are not 100% comfortable with, say no. And if they are your friends, they will understand that. And if they don't understand that, they are not your friends. Did you ever question your body or feel insecure about your figure? How did you overcome it? Yes, I feel like I touched on this a little bit in my questions I've never answered. I went through a stage where I had grown in height and I was super skinny, and all my friends were getting like hips and boobs and a bum, and I was still a bit like, oh, when's mine coming? And then they happened, and they happened very quickly. So it's like I almost woke up one day and my boobs were there and my bum was there. So now I've got like stretch marks. And for a while I didn't like it, because it almost made me look skinnier, because it was like, oh, these boobs don't like go with my body, and like I don't look like my friends. Why can't I put weight on? And I struggled with the fact that I just felt like I looked so skinny. And I was quite self-conscious at like PE, and I hated putting shorts on. But what's so interesting is people assume you can't feel insecure about your body when you're skinnier. Like I would put shorts on and people would just kind of assume that I'm confident because I've got my shorts on and I've got my legs out, and I'm sure there were people around me who would have wanted to have had my legs, yet in my head I was like, I hate my legs. Hated swimming. Oh my god, that for me was the worst. That's like, you know when you remember something and you get like a wave of like, ugh. I hated swimming, and I honestly believe 98% of the girls in my swimming group hated swimming for this very reason. If you're gonna put like 20 girls who are all like growing and changing at very different rates and getting used to their bodies and trying to learn why things are how they are, or why you're not like Sally next to you, or why you've got one boob that seems to be growing faster than another boob, or why you've got like a wobbly bit, or why you feel so skinny, you're never gonna have a great lesson. Like it's never gonna be a great lesson. We all hated swimming so much. Like no one enjoys. Who enjoys swimming apart from that one girl that was there in her like blister socks and swim hat and goggles and nose clip? Like she's the one that loved swimming, but everyone else did not love swimming. And I just felt like everyone stared at me in a swimming costume because I was so skinny, and I hated it so much. I still did it. I still put the swimming costume on. And I hated swimming anyway. Like I hate swimming. But I don't know, it was kind of like a phase that came and went. I remember feeling quite insecure between the ages of about 12 and 14, and then past that I think I stopped caring, because I sort of settled with the fact that everyone's bodies were growing and changing at different rates, and everyone had something about them that they weren't happy with, or something that they felt they wanted to change. And that was very reassuring to me, because I felt like I was the only one who was the odd one out, but actually everyone feels like they're the odd one out at some point, which I'm very lucky for, because there are a lot of people who can't do that, which I feel really sad about. Eve said, how to tell friends you can't or don't want to go to parties because they don't understand. I love you. I love you too. That's hard, because there were a lot of things I never wanted to go to because of my anxiety. But I feel like I just said, I don't want to go. The worst part of it for me was that I couldn't go, not that I didn't want to go, if that makes sense. It's that I felt like I couldn't, not that I didn't want to. So I would be at home knowing they were all on a night out and they were all like having a fab time, and I wished more than anything I could be there, but I knew I couldn't be. And that was quite a hard time for me, actually. That was probably in my later teens. That's something I knew I had to deal with. Like, that's not something my friends have to deal with, that's me. And what I should have done was spoken to someone earlier, got help earlier, and kind of then lived my kind of late teens, early 20s anxiety free, rather than trying to sort it out a little bit further down the line. But yeah, I feel like you just tell them, and again, if they're your friends, they'll understand, and if they don't understand, that's okay, because it means that it's not something they experience. But at the end of the day, if you don't want to go out or you feel like you can't, then don't. And you might get FOMO, but that's a choice you've made, and if they love you, then they'll still say they miss you. Abby said, what were your favourite things to do with friends, etc. during high school? Oh my god, okay, so this probably was my favourite thing. We would like go to each other's houses and we would make, with photographs and Windows Movie Maker, we would make little films, and I still have them. And nowadays I would be uploading them to YouTube, but back then YouTube didn't exist, so I was just like making them and like saving them, and we would like reenact things. So we did Mean Girls, we did, oh my god, we did like weird, me and my friend did The Ring. Like, we would reenact a whole film in photos with slides and like text and music, and it was great fun. So that's what we did. As I got a bit older, it was like house parties. There was a park next to our school, so we used to like hang out in the park quite a lot. Yeah, there was a lot of great times, actually. A lot of great friend times. We used to go shopping on the weekends. We would all get the bus in, and we would get disposable cameras and like take pictures, and lots of sleepovers. We would always try and do all-nighters, and funnily enough, you'd all think I would suck at that, but I was actually not that bad. What to do when you're in a friendship group, then fall out because of nothing? How do you deal with it? Oh, we had a fair amount of these. We really did. As I said at the beginning of this, when you're put into a situation for the majority of your life for 5 years with the same people, you're never gonna always get on. Like, you're just not. There's gonna be something that brushes one person up the wrong way, and then there's tension, and then it's awkward, and then the group divides, and then some people are on that side, some people are on that side, then there's a whole division and they don't speak to these people, and it'll be over something that you don't even remember what it's over. And I think what's different today, that is so different from back then, is when that used to happen with our friends, a lot of the making up and the sorting out had to happen face to face, which I feel like probably wouldn't happen as much now, because there's things like Facebook and like messengers and Twitter, and there's loads of different places that you can see like snidey indirects and things like that. But in the olden days, that makes me sound so ancient, but back when I was a teenager, it would have been something like, there would have been something said at school and someone would have taken it the wrong way, or someone would have been having a bad day and someone else wouldn't have cared as much as they should have. And then there would be like little tiffs. I wouldn't say we ever all like fell out big time, but there was certainly like little arguments here and there. Hello! Hello, Buzzy! We've got Buzzy at the moment. Do you want to come up? Are you going to sit down, or are you just going to breathe heavily behind me? Hello! Oh, you're all in my hair. You're all Buzz. Oh. All right, you're like a parrot. Buzz. Right, sit. Good boy. Good boy. I feel like at the time, arguments feel so huge and so like it's the end of the world, and that you'll never be friends again, and that it's going to be so awkward. But eventually you make up, because what's the alternative? Like, you see each other every day. When you're so close to someone, like a sibling or like a relative, and you're spending so much time with them, you do just rub each other up the wrong way, and sometimes you are going to have an argument, but then you make up, and then you're stronger than you were before because you've had to like talk through your differences, and you're kind of growing up together. And actually, I think it would be weirder if growing up you never had arguments with your friends, because there's so much going on and so much is changing and it's a crazy time. So of course you're going to argue, but you just have to know that those arguments don't have to be the be all and end all. And I think talking and communicating rather than being snidey and indirect online is the way forward. Faith said, I'm not a teenager anymore, but when I was, I would like to know how important love really is at that age. What's so funny is, I thought I was in love at that age, but actually being an adult, it's not the same kind of love. And I don't know, I think that's all I can really say on that. I do think it exists in teenagers. Like, I do believe if you truly love someone, kind of like the people that meet when they're young and then they stay together forever, that is true love. And I think that can happen, and if it happens to you, then you're really lucky. But I thought it had happened, but it hadn't. And it's only as I got older and met new people that I could see that I hadn't been, if that makes sense. So in answer to your question, it's not that important. I think what is important at that age is learning to love yourself and learning to love other human beings, whether that's friends or like family. I think that's important. But being in love with someone, I don't think is so important at that age, personally. How did you cope with toxic friends, and how can I get out of a toxic friendship? If you are with a group of friends in school who are toxic and you just aren't happy, then you need to step away from that group of friends. And I know it can feel so hard, but I just feel like if you're with friends who aren't making you happy, if they're bullying you, if they're making you feel uncomfortable, they're pressurizing you, they're not the sort of people you're ever going to grow up and be thankful that you were friends with. They're not the sort of people that you're going to invite to your like wedding in 10 years. Then there's no point. Do you know what I mean? It's such a waste of you as a human being, because there are people out there who will appreciate you, who will treat you with nothing but kindness and love. And you may feel like there is no one else, but there is. If you flip that, and if you think you see someone who is being bullied or who is part of a very toxic friendship, then you should extend an arm. Like, ask them how they are, like check they're okay, even if they're not part of your friendship group, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're alone in something. And whether that's you feeling that way, or you know someone who feels that way, or you've seen someone who looks unhappy in their group of friends or is getting picked on, or who has no friends, I think it's just as important for you to reach out to them. Just ask them how they are, ask them how their day's been, ask them what they're doing later, like message them, anything, because that can make someone feel so much happier. Because as much as I can say, oh, like, you'll find new friends, I think it's just as important for other people to open their eyes and realise that there might be people that feel like they have no one. And when I was in school, I don't think I did that enough. I don't think I extended an invite or smiled at the people who probably needed it more than I thought they did, if that makes sense. And it makes you feel good, it makes them feel good. I really like the saying, some friends are for a reason, some are for a season, and some are for a lifetime. And that's okay. If some are for a season, fine. They were great for that season and it was fab, and sometimes it's not meant to last beyond that. Some are for a reason, so they might come into your life for a purpose. Lifetime is so rare. That was another thing. In school, I feel like it's such a big deal to have a lot of friends, and it isn't. Have your select friends, whether that's one, whether that's two, whether that's three, whether that's 10. If you have those core people who make you happy, who bring something to your life, who influence you in a positive way, that's all you need. And anyone who doesn't do that, don't waste your time. Ella said, if you could be a teenager again, which teenage year would you go back to and why? I would say, oh, that's so hard. Maybe like 15, like start of GCSEs, 14, 15. What year is that? Year 9? I would go back to year 9 because I felt quite confident in myself. Although I didn't know what I wanted to do, I felt confident in the subjects I was doing for GCSE. I'd settled with like, yeah, I'm happy with these. I had my like core group of friends. I had a social life and I had a lot of fun and I felt more comfortable in myself, I think. Yeah, 14, 15. And like no responsibilities because I hadn't started exams yet. Woo! Abby said, what was it like when you first got your period? I actually got my period in school. It was in tutor time right before last lesson and I was one of the last ones out of my friends and I was really excited about it. I remember that. We had someone come to our school who did like a talk. She talked about like periods and things you could use when you're on your period. And they gave you like a goodie bag when you left. And in it had like 2 nighttime pads, some tiny little tampons and some like daytime pads and then like a leaflet and like it was just like a little information pack and it made me so excited to start my period. And then like a year later I did in a lesson and I was a little bit embarrassed about it actually. I had to do the old tie the jumper around the waist because I had nothing on me, and then I went home and I told my mum, and then I realised that I was gonna bleed like every month for like the majority of my life, so I wasn't that excited after that. Woohoo! Jennifer said, when did you start shaving? I thought this was quite a good one because I had to really think about this. And I had to think about what the first thing was I shaved. I feel like it might have been my armpits, or maybe it was my legs. I feel like my armpits took a really long time to get hair. I remember I had like a couple of hairs there and I was like, oh, that's weird. And I always used my dad's razor that he would leave on like the side of the bath. I must have been about 13 or 14, and the amount of times I sliced my legs on my dad's blunt razors was a lot. What I will say though is if you are planning on starting shaving, if you haven't yet gotten to that point, leave it as long as you can, because again, it's something you get so excited to do and then you just realise it is a chore and a ball ache and the hair just grows back thicker. I do remember though, my mum, I remember the first time I shaved down there, I must have been like 15, 16, because I thought that that's what you had to do. I wasn't sure, I don't know. And I must have left the hair in the bath. This is quite an embarrassing story, I don't know whether I want to tell this. Oh well, I didn't wash it away. And the next day my mum was like, if you ever want to shave your bikini line, you need to be very careful because it grows back longer and thicker, and I've heard it can start growing down your legs. And I remember her telling me that, obviously to try and scare me. And after that I was actually really terrified to ever shave down there again. Turns out it hasn't grown down my legs, so thanks for that, Mum. I mean, she might not have been lying, but I mean, she could have just said, hey, I noticed you shaved your bits, just be careful and let me buy you a nice razor so you don't have to use your dad's manky old one. So I think I'm going to stop there because I have been rambling on for quite a long time now. Thank you so much for watching this video. It's gotten dark as I've been filming this and Buzz is gone and the dogs are barking and Alfie's going crazy, so I should probably go, but thank you for being so patient with me and waiting for this video. I really hope it helps some of you. being a teen is difficult. It doesn't matter what anyone says. Everyone will have their trials and tribulations. Just remember, you're probably not the only one feeling a certain way. Offer a hand or a smile to someone who might need it, because that can make a lot of difference. And it may seem overwhelming at times, but look, I got through it. You can too. And I look back now at my teenage years and remember some of the best times. So I really feel like you will too. But please don't hesitate to tweet me or leave comments. Everyone have a little chit chat. Send your reassurances, ask your questions. There will be a lot of people watching this video that can offer advice. So don't be scared to leave a comment. And yeah, I love you very much, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!